Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Tom Morgan Drum Studio. Today in our journey through my book, A Sequential Approach to Fundamental Snare Drum, we've reached page 53, and now we're going to jump back into compound meter with an 8 on the bottom of the time signature. And we're going to go ahead and add some 16ths now that are common 16th note patterns. And they're listed here right on page 53. So again, you have to have the book to make sense of this, and I hope you have purchased it from callenpublications.com or from your local drum shop and or Amazon for that matter. And so there's 6 different rhythms here, and I'm just going to talk about them and play them, and I'm assuming that you can see them in the book. The first one is just taking now we're taking 6 16th notes as our basic group, just like when we were in simple meter, we took 4 16th notes and then tied different combinations of them together to create different 8th note, 16th note patterns. We're doing the same thing here. One thing that's important to note, when you move into compound meter, the fundamental subdivision is now 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, as opposed to 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So since our subdivision is now 3, it increases the number of possible rhythms geometrically. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people have a hard time reading in compound meter, because there's just so many more possible rhythms, and it seems like you're constantly getting confronted with new rhythms. Whereas in simple meter, you kind of learn the basic, 5 basic rhythms that we learned before, and then there's, other variations of that, but, you kind of feel like you can mentally contain all of them in your mind, and you're not always being confronted with new things. But when you start jumping into compound meter, you have that feeling that, man, there's just so many different rhythmic variations here. And that's true. And so I've tried to make it a little easier by limiting ourselves here to just 8ths and 16ths, and we're taking these 6 different patterns. So the first one, we're just tying the first 2 16ths together to create an 8th note, and then you've got 4 more 16ths. So we're going to count that 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 3. The next one, we just move that over and tie the second 2 16th notes together to create an 8th note. So now we're going 1 and 2, 3, and 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 then the next one, we just move it over to the third group of 2, and we tie those together to create an 8th note. So now we've got 1 and 2 and 3, 1 and 2 and 3, 1 and 2 and 3. And that brings us to number 4, where we have the first 2 groups of 2 tied together, and then the last 2 we leave alone. So that's going to be 2 8ths and a 16th. So that'll be 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and. So now we're on number 5, and we tie the first and third groups of 2 16th notes together and leave the middle 2 alone. So we have 8th, 2 16ths, 8. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. And then the last one, we tie the last 4 16th notes together into groups of 2 8th notes, and we have 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3. Those are the 6 different rhythms that we're working with. Okay, and so if you move over to page 54, we have 2 exercises. Actually, we have 2 pages of exercises using those rhythms, and plus we throw rests in, 8th rests in, to substitute for 8th notes. So you have to get used to seeing those rhythms with the rests inserted for notes and still relate them to their original form with all the notes there. So we're only going to do page 54 in this video with numbers 1 and 2. And the first one's in 3/8. So this is the easiest one. So we're just going to count it in 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3. 1 and 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 3. 1, 2 and 3. 1, 2 and 3 and 1 and 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3. Okay? And notice I'm going fast enough that I can feel the dotted quarter. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's the beat, you know. And of course, 3/8 could be much faster than that. I could go 1 and 2 and 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 and 3, 1, so forth. So the dotted quarter is the pulse that we feel. So, you know, start slow, and eventually you want to get that fast enough that you can feel it in 1. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, like that. We drop down to number 2. Now we're in 6/8 time. So there's going to be 2 dotted quarter pulses in each measure, but we're basically dealing with the same rhythms that we were dealing with before. It's just that now we have 2 of them in every measure instead of 1. And the way the notes are beamed together makes it hopefully easy for you to see the different rhythmic groups. It's very important to, when you're writing something in compound meter like this, 6/8, 9/8, 12/8 especially, that you beam these into unit beats like this. Because if you don't, it becomes nearly impossible to read and to pick out where the pulse should be. Now I'm going to put a slight agogic accent at the beginning of each group. We've talked about that before. An agogic accent is just an implied accent. But what it does is it helps telegraph to the listener the pulse, where the pulse is going to be. If we didn't have that, it could just sound kind of like random notes with no real musical meaning. It could be overdone. You don't want it to be heavy. It needs to be just an implied weight to the downbeats, to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, to give it that rhythmic lilt that you want it to have. Okay, so here's number 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2, 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2 and 3, and 1, 2, 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 3, and 1 and 2 and 3, 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 3, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 and 3, 1 and 2 and 3, and 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3, and 1, 2 and 3, 1 and 2, 3, 1 and 2, 3, 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2, 3. I counted that in 3, even though it's in 6/8 time. And, you know, you can certainly count it in 6 if you wanted to. As we move on in the next video to the 9/8 and the 12/8, I'm going to count those in 3 too, because if you start counting up beyond 6, especially, it starts to get unwieldy. You know, 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and 9, and 10, and 11, and 12, and it's pretty hard to do that. And they're all just groups of 3 anyway, so there's no reason to necessarily count those in 9 and 12. But we'll get into that in the next video. All right, so hopefully this is helpful to get you started. Again, start slow. If you can't go this fast, that's okay. If you use a metronome, put the click on the dotted quarter. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, like that. But if you have to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, that's perfectly fine. Okay, so please like this video, click the like button, click the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed, and the little bell so you'll know when another video comes out. And we'll see you in the next one. All right? Bye-bye.